Hi, everyone. My name's Lisa with IVF Manifesting a Miracle, and I'm really excited for my guest today. She's coming all the way from England, just outside of London, and her name is Sheila Lamb. Welcome, Sheila.
Hello, everybody. Hi there. Hi,
Um,
Lisa.
Hi, I'm so excited. Thank you for doing this soul sister
Thank you.
conversation with me. And oh my goodness, you and I connected earlier this year, and I'm really honored that you reached out and asked if I'd like to be a part of your book. You have many, many books that I want to share today to, let others in the fertility community know that there's so much support out there, and this is the one that I contributed to. Thank
Yeah.
you.
No, thank you. Gosh.
And gosh, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and as an author, like what brings you to write for the community?
Sure, yes. Okay, so I was a bit late to the trying to get pregnant situation. I started when I was about 41, and I had been a nurse and a midwife. So although I had a bit of an idea, I wasn't, you know, the nursing bit around infertility really never existed. And obviously, as a midwife, I didn't come across people who were trying to get pregnant. They were pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So although I had a medical background, I didn't really have it in the infertility arena. So yes, so I kind of thought I might have problems. And I warned my boyfriend, as he was then, and then obviously my husband, that we might have problems. So anyway, we didn't get pregnant within a year. So we then went to our general practitioner. Long story short, we obviously got referred to a fertility clinic, had some tests done, and we were diagnosed with unexplained. So the advice was to do IUI, intrauterine insemination, which we did, and didn't get anything from that. So we were advised to go straight to IVF, which we did. And we researched the clinic, and being close to London, as you said, there was a clinic who kind of specialised a little bit in the older woman, I suppose you could say. And I guess, like most people, I went along expecting to be with lots of other women in their 40s, but oh my gosh, there was young women, there was older women, all ethnicities. It was a real eye-opener. It was first exposure to a fertility clinic, and it was a busy clinic, and it was like quite overwhelming. It really was. Anyway, we decided to do IVF, but again, because of my age, we were advised to do pre-implantation genetic screening, where they looked at the chromosomes. So I didn't do too well. I didn't do too badly, I should say. We had 6 eggs collected, and they all fertilized with ICSI. In fact, we actually ended up doing ICSI in the end. They were sent off to be tested. And again, I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but one thing I remember is after egg collection, having to leave the clinic. I didn't want to. I didn't want to leave my embryos there. I felt like I had lost something so precious. It was a really weird feeling that I've never felt before and never felt since. I just kind of wanted to sit by the incubator and not let these embryos out of my sight. Anyway, we got through the sort of 4 or 5 days, and then the clinic rang, and actually only one embryo was normal. All the others had weird and wonderful, chromosomes missing, extra chromosomes, etc. So we had that one embryo put back. Personally, I wasn't that hopeful, which is a terrible thing to say, but it was a blastocyst, and it was only at 10 cells, when really a blastocyst should be a lot more than that. Anyway, we obviously had the embryo put back, did the 2-week wait, I survived the 2-week wait, I should say, and I got to test day when my period started. So we went back to the clinic and they said, well, you could do it again, but looking at your eggs, that is a sign of, they're not going to be good quality. Even if you do produce enough, you really ought to think about donor eggs. So
at this point, Sheila, you had already done an IUI, right?
mhm,
Tried an IUI that was not successful.
yeah,
Then this was your first
ICSI,
IVF.
IVF, ICSI,
cycle.
yeah, with the
Mhm.
chromosome testing.
That's
That's right.
amazing. Starting at 41. So they were suggesting maybe donor egg at that point.
Yes, yeah, almost straight away. They said definitely the results from the PGD testing
Yeah.
were showing that the embryos, and funnily enough, just a couple of days ago I posted, I suppose it was last week actually, on Instagram, the result, because I came across the result. I was tidying out some papers and we never got given the result at
Yeah.
the time,
Yeah.
and they gave it to us. And later, and this wasn't the first time I saw it, a few weeks ago, I have seen it
Yeah.
before obviously, and that's the one embryo that was normal would have been a boy.
Mm.
So but at the time we didn't know that, so I don't know whether that would have been harder. I don't, whether it
Yeah.
been a boy or a girl, I don't know, but it was still like, I know now. I
Yeah.
knew then what we hadn't. We wouldn't have a son.
Yeah.
So yeah, the clinic suggested donor eggs, and at this point, so this is back in 2007-ish, and in the UK, donor donor embryos or sperm was not anonymous anymore. Now,
Mhm.
I personally didn't have any strong views on whether we knew the donor or we didn't.
Mhm.
But my husband very definitely did not want a known donor. So doing it in the UK was out. And I guess because we had unexplained, and I felt I was quite healthy. I'd never drunk, I'd never smoked. I thought I had a good diet, whether it
Yeah.
was a fertility diet or not, I don't know. But I thought we thought it could happen. So we went off and we kind of started to try and eat organic. I did acupuncture and Chinese medicine for 6 months, and it did change my periods. Um, and the acupuncturist, she was Western and Eastern trained, which I quite liked. And she was convinced I was ovulating. But in that time, that was sort of a 3-year period, I never got pregnant. And I had never been pregnant previously either, to starting trying to conceive. So as happens, I guess we'd always been thinking about donor egg, but we'd never actually really sat down and talked about it. And then one Sunday I was reading a magazine, a supplement in the Sunday paper, and there was an article in there about donor eggs, about this woman who'd done donor eggs, and it was all about a clinic in Spain
Spain. Yeah. I
doing
remember.
donor eggs. And I don't know, it just kind of clicked, whether, if that had been a year ago, would it have clicked? I don't know. But being sort of English and a bit, we like the fact that this Spanish clinic had an English nurse, because I don't speak Spanish,
Yeah.
and we kind of liked that because we thought, yeah, she'll get our little, English quirks, if you like. Anyway, that particular nurse had left by the time this article had come out, but there was another English nurse, so we arranged to go over to Spain, see the clinic. And it was so funny because the only experience of the clinic we'd had was this big London busy clinic. It was all hustle and bustle. And
Mm.
this was a little clinic with one doctor, one nurse, I don't know how many embryologists, but it was tiny. It was like the size of a house,
Mhm. So you didn't want to stay in England for the egg donor to research.
Well, because it wasn't anonymous, and my husband particularly
I
wanted
understand.
anonymous.
Okay, that was why.
That's why
Okay.
we had to go abroad. And
Okay.
and back then, yeah, 2008. No, this was probably 2007, 8. No, sorry, 2008, 9 now. Yeah,
Okay.
2008 or 9. Um, there weren't the Eastern European clinics etc. And I don't know what we would have done, but our choice was Spain anyway. We kind of knew Spain, obviously being on holiday to Spain. And we were very impressed. You know, we saw the doctor. He sort of spoke about a few things that we did a bit differently. There was an acupuncturist that we could use, you know, who worked with the clinic. And it kind of meant also that we would, like, you know, have a little bit of a holiday before and after. So there was a bit of relaxing, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yeah.
So all in all, we were really impressed. And obviously we'd spoken about donor conception and read information. And I'll be honest, I never really worried that I wouldn't love a baby if we had a baby, or that baby would always be mine.
It
I
didn't
don't remember.
it didn't matter that you were getting an egg donor.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
It didn't matter to me or my husband.
Yeah.
And I think because, you know, I understood that I'd be carrying it. I understood that it would be my blood that would be feeding it,
Right.
helping it to develop, etc., etc.
Mhm.
And I don't remember ever thinking, because I know that is a concern that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Will I feel like the baby's mum? Will the baby love me? And I don't really remember those being particular concerns that either of us had, to be fair.
Wow.
So anyway, the clinic quickly found us a donor. We did our first cycle of IVF, and came back, spent some of the 2-week wait in Spain, came back for the rest of it. And I got pregnant, which was like, oh my God, I can get pregnant.
Yeah.
For 2 weeks. And then I lost the baby. I think we went and had a 6-week scan, a private scan, and she wasn't sure if there was really anything there, but my HCG level was, you know, high and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think it was about
So
a week
sorry.
before Christmas.
Hmm.
Sorry?
I'm so sorry. I have not personally experienced a miscarriage, and
No,
I know
no.
many.
Yeah, it's yeah. Yeah. It's obviously at the time it was devastating. It was a week before Christmas, and we were we were just talking about snow before, weren't we? Because you're in Colorado. So
Yeah.
okay, in England, when we see a snowflake, we panic. Oh my God, it's going to snow. Well, this particular day that I actually miscarried, we were in Reading, in the town where we were. The town was gridlocked with cars everywhere.
Oh.
And we were on our way home, and we were near a store, clothing store, a clothing and housing store.
Yeah.
And I said to my husband, I said, I've really got to go to the loo. And this shop was open. So I went, so he stayed in the queue of traffic because it wasn't moving anyway. And I walked across to the store. I said, I'm so sorry, can I please use your loo? I think I may have said, I'm pregnant, can I use your loo?
Oh.
And I went, and they only had a staff loo. And that was where I lost the baby.
Gosh. That's
Down the toilet. There wasn't anything I could do about it. And so, you know, I was on my own. Obviously had to, go back to the car with my husband. We finally got home. And I didn't go to hospital. I didn't need to go to the doctors or anything, because it all ended. So I then immediately went into like research overdrive and looked into repeated implantation failure, early miscarriages, and came across a book called Is Your Body Baby Friendly? I don't know if you've heard of that, by Dr. Alan Beer.
Okay.
Very good book. It's all about natural killer cells, thrombophilia, factor V Leiden, autoimmune issues. And although I didn't know if I had anything, I kind of was a bit convinced that I might have a sticky blood thrombophilia thing, because when I did get pregnant with that first donor egg cycle, I'd taken baby aspirin, which I hadn't done previously, mainly because I had to go on the pill, and I was now like 45, 46. So I wasn't really that happy about being on the pill at that age. So they said, well, take baby aspirin. So to me, I kind of thought, well, that baby aspirin could have helped the embryo to stick, but not enough. So we found a very highly sought after doctor not far from us,
Okay.
and he trained with Dr. Alan Beer, or trained under his, you know, sort of guidance, whatever. Had these tests done, convinced I had everything wrong with me.
Oh.
As you do, wished for
You're
something.
45 at this time? You were 45?
I was, yes, I would have been 46. I would have been 46 by now, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so your
Just
doctor,
turned
did
40.
you ever go back to the other clinic in Spain, or were you staying then in?
No, we were staying with that clinic,
Okay.
and they suggested that I had another scan of my uterus,
Okay.
which I did, and I didn't think it would show anything, and it didn't show anything. There wasn't anything, no fibroids or anything at all. So this miscarriage consultant we saw, he did some tests. They all came back okay. So we were like, oh gosh, we really wanted something to be wrong. But anyway, he said we could do the drugs that if I had something wrong with me in the sort of sticky blood syndrome kind of thing, which the drugs were aspirin, a blood thinning injection, and a steroid.
Okay.
And so I went back to the clinic and said, this is what the miscarriage consultant said. We had these tests done, nothing's come up, but he said we can take these drugs before on the lead up to the cycle. We do another cycle. And the clinic was fine about that. They said, yeah, that's absolutely fine. We did have a different donor.
Okay.
And, you know, the thing with infertility is so difficult because each embryo is a different embryo each time. Yeah. Each egg is different, each sperm is different. And that's a really like frustrating part, isn't it? That I don't think a lot of people think outside of, you know, people who haven't experienced it. Right. You know. So anyway, we went back to Spain and did the cycle. And our donor, I can't remember how many eggs she produced, but we had quite a lot of embryos.
That's great.
The first time we had 2 embryos put back, and this time we had 2 embryos put back on day 2. So they were both
fresh.
This time, fresh cycles. So we didn't really do frozen cycles back then. And they were both 2-cell day 2. So last time neither of them took, and then this time, well, one or both took, but I miscarried. And so this time we had 2 put back, 2 2-day embryos. I had acupuncture before and acupuncture after. Stayed in Spain for a bit longer, I think, this time, and came back. And I was never one for testing early. I
wasn't either.
I had one.
I never tested.
I had one experience with the pregnancy test when I did it, and I don't know what I did, but somehow it flicked up in the air and fell down in the loo. I never bothered again.
Oh my God.
So anyway, I had a call from the clinic on the day I went for the blood test to the local hospital to have a blood test. As I say, I hadn't peed on a stick or anything, so I had no idea. And they said to me, well, how did the test go yesterday? And I said, oh, I did the test today. And they said, but you were supposed to do it yesterday. So I think I'm the only person who tested late.
Oh my gosh.
So when we did get the result back, the my HCG level, the pregnancy hormone level, was something like 400 or something like that. Yeah. When the last time it had been like 25.
Right.
So our GP had the results and he had to tell us on the phone, and we were all shouting, and my husband and I were like shouting, and he was shouting as well. So it was fantastic.
Did you know the gender of your embryos? Did you ever want to know when you were doing the transfers, or did you wait?
No, we didn't do the PGD or anything like that because our donor was late 20s.
Okay.
So there wasn't really any point in doing that. So no, but funnily enough, the fertility nurse, the lovely English fertility nurse,
Yeah.
she said, when she rang us up, she said, oh, your transfer is going to be today. She says, because one of them, I bet it's a girl, she said, is jumping up and down, waving her hand like this. But we didn't have a clue. And actually, all
Oh,
through most of my pregnancy, in the beginning, I thought I was having a boy. And my husband definitely thought we were having a boy. But then towards the end, I thought, and we never found out when in the scans, we said, no, we don't want to know. You know, this is the
oh,
only time we're going to
yeah.
do it. It's the only time we're going to get pregnant. We didn't have any frozen embryos. None were any good to freeze from either donor cycle.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so we didn't know the sex until she was born.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the miracle in all of this. So you went through an IUI, one IVF cycle with a miscarriage, and then another IVF cycle with donor egg. And your daughter is, you said, almost 10 years old?
She'll be 10 in January. Yeah. So I had her the week after my 47th birthday.
That's amazing.
And
You
I
give
have to
so much hope
say,
to so many people, you know?
oh, well, I hope so. And I have to say, even I was convinced that I was going to have the pregnancy from hell. I thought I was going to have everything going. And I absolutely sailed through. In fact, most people didn't even know I was pregnant because I hardly put on any weight. I had a little bit of indigestion. I had one scare
Yeah.
about 38 weeks when I lost a little bit of blood.
Mm,
But yeah, I'm no problems with my blood pressure, no diabetes, no,
yeah.
nothing.
And so when you were starting, I mean, you started fertility treatments, you said about 41. And
Mm.
what supports were around at that time? Did you have any kind of community that you felt connected to? Did you have books that you were finding comfort in? Or is that really kind of the why you've created what you have now? Can you share?
Yeah, I guess it is, to be honest. There was one online forum which was called Fertility Friends,
Okay.
and you could post questions and you would get answers, but they were more like medical type questions. I don't remember seeing much about the emotional side.
Mm,
Funny enough, I had a friend, and I don't know how I knew she was going through infertility, but somehow we knew each other's was. And she was doing North England, and she did 3 rounds, and then she just couldn't do it anymore, and so they stopped, and they went on to adopt. And I had a friend who lives really close to me who was going through fertility treatment at the same time as me,
oh,
more or less,
uh-huh.
and she was unsuccessful. And after I was pregnant with my daughter, she then got pregnant. So I got pregnant in the April, she got pregnant in the July, naturally after taking Clomid.
Okay.
But she also had a loss. She miscarried a couple of weeks after finding out she was pregnant,
Oh,
and she then didn't do any further
okay.
fertility treatment or anything. So those really were the only 2 people
Mm-hmm.
um, who I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't recall there being a lot of books around. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Certainly not. I know after I had my daughter, I started to do an online magazine, a fertility online magazine, and
Oh.
I came across a book which was sort of true life stories,
Mm-hmm.
and then Jessica Hepburn, I read her book after getting to know her, and her pursuit of motherhood is
Mm-hmm.
very, very honest truth about her experience. So no, I didn't, apart from that Alan Beer book, Dr. Alan Beer
Mm-hmm.
book, I don't think I bought any books.
Yeah.
um, and yes, I mean, the reason why I started the online magazine was because I didn't know of any other online magazine around at the time. And this was proper, like, as if you had a page in your a paper magazine and the page flicked over and it
Right.
was articles, very sort of glossy cosmopolitan type of magazine,
Right.
rather than a website. Um, but then whilst I was doing that magazine and coming up with all the, like, what can I have the articles about, I started a spreadsheet, obviously, of topics for the articles, and that's when I kind of realized that there could be a book
Yeah.
that people could find helpful.
Yeah.
And
And your
that
first
was the,
book, yeah, your first book is My Fertility Book.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
called My
that's
Fertility Book.
this one here, the green covered one. So
Mhm.
that's the glossary of terms, which is literally no jargon in it because I've written it.
Yeah.
And there's illustrations that are,
Uh-huh.
they're not offensive. They should,
Right, right.
but
Well, I
explain
admire. I
procedures.
mean, you took this really hard time in your life to turn it into being this supportive person, to share your knowledge and what you've learned. And since then, you've released a series of 4 books. Can you tell you your 4 books in
Mm.
that series?
Yeah, it's going to be a 7-book series, but then there will be a few others after that. The reason why it's 7 is because I'm making a rainbow with the books.
Oh,
So red, orange, yellow, green.
I didn't know that I had the
So
orange one. Oh,
yes,
I
yeah.
didn't know that. That's an awesome thing. I didn't realize
Yes,
that.
yeah. So each one, like this is trying to conceive, the type is in
Mhm.
red, and then this is IVF is in sort of orange,
Uh-huh.
and then yellow, the 2-week wait, and then
Week
pregnancy loss in
wait.
green.
And
Yeah.
share the last one again. The last book
This is pregnancy loss.
is pregnant.
And also each of the books, when I was putting the book together, and so the books are short stories from people like yourself who've contributed their
Right.
experience, shared really honestly what it's like to go through. So the Trying to Conceive book was the first one. So there's a couple on there with their little
I love
puppy.
that. Yeah.
And then the next one is they're doing their IVF treatment. So
Yep.
there's the puppy again, a little bit bigger. And then the
Oh, the
next one,
puppy grows.
the puppy grows. There's the 2-week wait, and there he is down there,
Uh-huh.
Yuffie.
Uh-huh.
And then in the last one, the pregnancy loss one, he's big now, and there's a little toy. So,
Oh,
so I wanted the books to. They're kind of a series, but I hope people don't need all 7.
right.
Personally, I would have had all 6 books because after the pregnancy loss one, it's going to be pregnancy after infertility and loss, because then that brings up all those anxieties that you're going to keep this
Mhm.
baby and bring it home. And then, so that will be book 5. The next book will be donor conception. And then the last one will be male factor. Well, I hope it'll be male factor and fertility. That's the plan.
Yeah,
Purely,
that's not often talked about.
exactly. That's why
Usually
I'm
in a third
hope.
of third. It was in our situation. We had a lot of male factor issues, and
Mm,
yeah,
yes, yeah.
in addition to some
So
other things that I had, but wonderful that
I
you're.
mean, I hope for that, the male factor one, I'd like men and women to contribute, because I know obviously it affects the woman
Right.
when there's male factor infertility,
Mm-hmm.
as well as obviously affecting the man in a
Mm-hmm.
different way.
No, it's awesome. And this book, thank you for again asking me to be a part of it. And I think there were like 34 contributing authors, if I'm not
Something like that.
mistaken, something like
Yes,
that.
yes.
Is that something you personally just kind of reached out to individuals and
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the first one, I when I did the first book, my fertility book, that's when I joined Instagram. And
Mm,
when I realized, oh my gosh,
yeah,
there's so much support there. And I don't know about you, but as I said before, there was just literally this forum and a couple of people I knew, and
yeah,
that really was it. Um, Even reading people's posts all those years later
yeah.
still helped me process what I'd been through, and just made me like the aha moments. I was like, oh gosh, if only I'd known that. And
Mhm.
seeing all that information, I mean, that's where the ideas from the books came. Seeing all that information, I was like, people don't know necessarily that there is this community on Instagram.
Right.
If people will contribute their thoughts, their experiences, their feelings. And in the 2-week wait one, there are some from people who haven't necessarily, most people have been through infertility. There's a couple of people who've like helped people
Okay.
who I know and who I trust.
Yeah.
But their contributions are not salesy. They're not saying, this is what I do, this is me, this is me. I didn't want that. But everybody's information, like yours, is in the back, because I thought you could be reading something, it could really resonate with you, and you
Mhm.
want to get hold of that person.
Yeah.
Whether, like a lot of people who contributed, they're just on Instagram and they're just sharing their stories. They're not a coach, they're not a nutritionist,
Right.
they're just there to help,
Right.
you know. And that's why I think so few people have actually said no, they don't want to contribute. And normally if they say no, it's because they've got their own project going on, or they're busy or something like that, you know. Which is absolutely understandable. But I feel like I'm a bit of a custodian. I'm looking after these stories and getting them out there to everybody who needs them,
A
you know.
caretaker for these
Yes,
stories. Maybe
yes,
not a
yeah,
custodian,
exactly.
caretaker. um,
Caretaker, yeah.
no, it's truly, our stories are so healing. They're needed. And I was not on Instagram during our journey. I was on Facebook a little bit. I was a part of an
Mm,
online Facebook group. That was about it. And then some personal friends that I knew going through some fertility struggles. So that
mm,
supported me immensely.
mm,
But now, oh my goodness, like there's so many communities, so many amazing coaches, speakers. I mean, the support is everywhere, you know? Um, are there things that you wish you, like, if you could tell anyone starting in this fertility journey now, of course, your books are a very valuable resource. Is there any advice or things you wish someone had kind of shared with you about this journey?
mm. I would say, I would definitely say it's probably going to be harder than you can ever imagine.
Mm.
You really don't know how you're going to feel if you are going to do IVF. Um, and it's nothing to be ashamed of if you speak to a counselor or find a coach or find a mentor, find somebody like you
Mm.
to help you through it, because yeah, you just don't know. And you can speak to your partner, but you've each got your own feelings and ways of dealing with things. And you don't want to be talking about it all the time. I wasn't that great at having a life outside of infertility for 6 years, I have to say. you
Yeah.
know I mean, in the UK, there is a chance that you will get one cycle paid for, but because I was over 40, we just had to pay for everything. And I would imagine my daughter's priceless, but
Yeah.
she did cost us about £40,000. So when you're paying for all that, there isn't a lot of extra money to maybe go on holiday or something like that. Not that that is the only thing you can do. You can do lots of free things. But of course, we're all only human and everybody needs a break. So I would definitely say try and have a life outside of
Oh, for sure.
infertility,
Yeah.
and definitely find someone like you who could, who can, like, hold your hand and be a
Exactly.
sounding board and just
Mhm.
share stuff with, who you know who's just there to listen, really.
No, it's so, so important. That's why I created, what I'm doing. I felt
Mm,
like it was really lacking, um, to address the emotional journey, the mindset that's needed. There's so many, I don't know if you want to call it secrets, but things that I felt needed to be shared and supported,
mm,
with
mm,
others to keep in mind. And that's great, because I'm a big believer in still living your life and not putting your life on hold and doing the things that light you up and bring you joy. There's so many things that we often forget on this ride,
mm.
you know, um,
Yeah,
holding on to ourselves, right? Just,
absolutely. Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, your books are amazing. What do you hope people get from them? Do you have any, um, kind of, I don't know, what would be your wish? Like, if someone is interested in kind of searching for a book like yours, to search for the IVF one, if they're going through the IVF treatments, if the 2-week wait is calling to them, you have a whole book on just the 2-week wait, right? or beginning fertility treatments. Is that the first one you wrote, right?
Yeah, the first one, trying to conceive. So that's really if you're just going through infertility, and it's originally I wasn't going to have an IVF one, but then I thought, well, not everybody goes to IVF because people do get pregnant naturally, and it's just whilst you're dealing with the actual finding out that it might be a struggle to have a baby. You will get there, you will probably get there, but it might be a struggle. And while that's going on, whether it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years before maybe going down the route of fertility treatment, I think that the main thing is that reading that other people or reading someone write something, and you could say, God, that is how I feel. That is, and I thought I was the only one, or I thought it's just me who feels like this. So, all the stories, they were also different,
Right.
even though they're on like one subject, that everyone's experience is different, everyone's story is different, everyone's reason for struggling is different. So if people can, and in fact, with the pregnancy loss one, I started to contact people, I think it was the beginning of this year. And then obviously COVID happened, and I found myself not able to go to work for 10 weeks. And I thought, well, what can I do? And I contacted people who via Instagram, who had experienced pregnancy loss and stillbirth, and asked them, I said, I know it's a really hard time, but I don't know what your circumstances are. Would you like to contribute? So people did, people wrote some wonderful, wonderful contributions at the first, part of lockdown or coronavirus, whatever.
Yeah.
And so for people to do that, I thought that was just amazing. And although I thought of the books initially to help people who were going through infertility, fertility treatment, pregnancy loss, etc., donor conception, now I thought, well, they could give these books to their family and friends who haven't been through it, so they can answer. Because even I'm very open even now, even though my daughter's nearly 10. If I meet somebody new, who you still do, and kind of, I think sometimes it's obvious that I was older than most mums, and I'm quite, I said, well, my daughter took took us 6 years, and I tell them everything, and most people say, oh gosh, yes, my sister, my cousin, my brother and his wife, everybody knows somebody, but they still don't know how to support people. So I hope that people could buy the book, and while they're making someone a cup of coffee, say, just have a flick through this and read through, because sometimes when someone else tells somebody something, people go, oh, that's what you're going through. But if you try and tell somebody, they don't listen in the same way.
No, so that's really great. It's, hello, Christmas holiday season. It's like be sharing our books and, with others. It's one of the best compliments is when I have clients who said, my mom bought your book. So she's, also learning about what it's like to go through fertility struggles. So it's like such a compliment to be like, oh my goodness, that it's helping families understand.
Yes, because you're very honest about your story in your book. So I'm sure that would, yes, definitely help people. And as you say, help family and friends. But also, these books can help healthcare professionals. In fact, a midwife, somebody who's training as a midwife, contacted me. She had the IVF book, and she said, my gosh, she said, when I now book someone who's been through fertility treatment to have their baby, I really, really understand more what they've been through to get to this point. And she said, I would definitely be recommending it to, other midwives as well.
You used to be a midwife, right? Your history, you were a nurse and a midwife.
Yes. I was a midwife years ago. I don't have any connections now with midwifery. But I do remember, actually, this was in the late 80s, I booked someone in antenatally who was pregnant through fertility treatment, and
Wow.
I don't remember it being mentioned. It was
Oh,
like, it was there in her book, but it was like, oh, I must mention that, kind of thing. So,
yeah. Can I ask you, you said you took off, you with the lockdown, what work have you been doing outside of writing, being an author? Were
oh,
you
it
also,
is absolutely, yeah,
oh,
it's
you have a
nothing to
different
do
job.
with
You have another job.
infertility.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's boring.
Oh,
But
and you,
yeah, it did mean that I could, get the books out there, because and learn the marketing side, because I'm self-published. Like, you're not self-published though.
I had a publisher. Yeah.
You had a publisher, yeah.
Local here in Colorado. Hmm.
Yeah, I self-publish, so I feel it's my duty to learn what I can about marketing and,
Oh
and
yeah.
getting,
Well,
because
the
it
marketing's all on me for sure.
is yours on you as
Oh
well,
yeah.
isn't it?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And you have a free ebook. I wanted to share a couple things.
Yes,
You have the ebook, which is it the best fertility jargon buster?
that's right. That's this one.
It's the most concise A to Z list of fertility abbreviations, acronyms you'll ever need. You
Yeah.
can download that at
You can.
www.mfsbooks.co.uk.
Yes, that's right. Yes, yeah. And that's literally just a list. I'm planning on prettying it up a bit, because it looks a little bit medically kind of.
Yeah,
That's on my
that's your
to-do
ebook.
list, to make
And
it
then
look it's not available as a paperback yet, but when it looks nicer, I think it would be quite handy for people to have.
oh,
Um, and it probably needs updating, actually, because there's probably some new things in there.
oh, yeah. I know it changes all the time, right? And then your first book is also, you said you're giving away 10,000 copies, ebook
Mhm.
copies,
Of
which
this
is the
one,
This is
yeah,
Trying to Conceive book. So
yeah.
for anyone that's looking for some,
Hmm.
free information support, I would definitely check out Sheila's gift. So that's really a wonderful gift.
Yeah.
Um, Gosh, any other lasting thoughts? I know you and I feel so strongly about this community and what a
Mm.
joy it is to serve and support others in this space. Um,
Yeah,
Becoming a
yeah.
first-time author this year too myself, right? During this pandemic, it's just such an amazing, I don't know, time to release a book, right? Like, you know,
Yes, yes, you did yours. You did yours in Mother's Day. Yours was
yeah,
released,
release
wasn't
it on
it?
Mother's Day, and
Which was
you reached out right
amazing.
around the same time when I was working on finished wrapping up my book. So it was such
That's
an
right.
amazing
Yes.
surprise
Yeah.
to be a contributing author to another book too.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's brilliant, and your details are in there as well.
Mm,
I just look to the future, and the reason why I try and tell people and try and speak out when I can
mhm,
is just, I think, if my daughter or her friends, when they want to get pregnant, and if they ever have any problems,
mm,
to know that it's not a taboo subject anymore, or if they have a pregnancy loss, to know, whether that's with or without, without fertility treatment,
yeah,
just to know that it won't be such a taboo subject,
yeah.
is what I'm really passionate about supporting people now,
Yeah.
but also
For
hopefully
future
making it
generations. Yeah.
hopefully making it a better, because I don't want my daughter to go through,
Hmm.
what I went through and loads of other people went through.
Yeah.
So that's really my, she knows all about the books. She knows she's donor conceived,
She
and
does. Yeah.
she's which, she should know, really. And to know that, she did say the other day, though, she was talking about it, and she said, well, mummy, if these people can't have babies, why don't they just adopt?
Oh, oh my goodness.
Like, right, we're
And how
sitting
did
down
you
and having a
say
chat.
to that? What did you say?
I think I kind of, I mean, she's coming up for 10, so she kind of understands. And I kind of said, well, look, most women want to have their own child. They want to be pregnant. They want to have a baby, in their tummy, and grow the baby. And not everybody, some people choose not to have their own child, and they do choose to adopt. That might be something some people do, but you know, most people want to, you know, you will understand when you're a little bit older that, you know, most people want to have a baby in
biologically,
their
or
tummy. Yeah.
I mean,
Even
like
just
you said,
carrying,
yeah,
yeah,
carrying.
just carrying the baby, having the experience and giving birth. It's
Mhm.
just, well, you can't help it, can you? It's just part of our makeup, our, you know, genetics,
Right.
whatever,
Hmm.
just the way we're made. I mean, women obviously to keep, you know, the population,
Right.
you know, there is that thing that
Carrying.
you want
Yeah.
to have your, you know, get pregnant and have your baby. But I did put her right.
Good. I know there's so many adults who say that comment too, and it's just like, oh my God, we have a lot of
Exactly.
education and a lot of just sensitive, being sensitive. Like it's everyone is on their own path, their own journey to parenthood, however that looks, and there's multiple ways. And
Mm.
yeah, wouldn't that be nice if more people were sensitive to
Oh,
how many
absolutely.
try, many are on this path for a long time, and it's not
Mm.
that easy. I mean, we could get into a whole nother topic another day about that, but it's very
Yeah,
expensive and timely, and it's not like you can just go run and adopt a child, right? It's not that simple.
exactly,
I met friends that have
exactly.
gone through years of heartbreak and trying to adopt, and
Yeah,
it's, oh my goodness. They
yeah,
were
yeah.
eventually successful in adopting, but canceled.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
exactly, exactly.
Um,
And yeah, people, I don't know. I really, yeah, that's one thing that I just can't get my head around, why people aren't more empathetic
yeah,
towards
empathetic, that's the
someone.
word. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I still haven't, I did kind of used to, I was talking to somebody else about it before, and I said, I don't know whether it's like this. Um, if you think of lions and how all the female lion, the lionesses, try and impress the male lion because they want to mate with him. And I kind of wondered whether it was some primal thing in
Mm,
women that if they haven't had problems, they have to let you know that they haven't had problems.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, or know anything about animal behavior.
Yeah.
But it just struck me that that's kind of like, you know, the lioness, you know, sort of struts
Um,
around in front of or any animal, female animal, in front of the male, and whether that is something, you know, because yeah, most
mm,
most women, they don't, they they have more stories to say of people who have said the insensitive things than someone who's turned around and said something sensitive who hasn't been through infertility.
yeah.
And I just can't work out. I don't know if anyone's ever come up with, maybe the next person who doesn't get it, I'll ask them.
Well, thankfully, there's been more talk in the media, and Meghan
Mm,
Markle is most recent. I feel like she
yes.
sharing her story of from a celebrity's perspective of
Yeah.
her miscarriage in July and what that loss is like, and just being asked if she's okay.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
who's the other one? Lynn
Oh,
Durham, that brought a lot of controversy,
yes.
and her
Yes.
sharing about her experiences going through fertility struggles, but how, and Chrissy Teigen, it's
Tegan, yes.
wonderful that more people are talking about it. It's becoming part of the just regular conversation, not so stigmatized. And
Yeah, it's brilliant.
thankfully it's being talked about where people can share
Absolutely.
openly, and hopefully find the support. So your books are wonderful. I'm
Thank you. So's
so proud to be a
yours.
part of, thank you. I'm so proud to be a part of yours. And I have an extra copy, so I'm going to be sharing on Instagram and going to do a giveaway for one of
Yes.
the books. So thank you for giving me a copy and for letting me
That's,
give one
you're
to another
welcome.
lucky fertility sister. So how can people reach you again? Can you share your social media handle, your website?
Yeah, so because I've done a few different things, I'm different names, but on Instagram, I'm at Fertility Books,
At
and
Fertility Book.
then at
Yep.
Fertility Books. And then my website is at M for Mother, F for Father, S for Son Books. That actually came from the magazine, which was called My Fertility Specialist. So I just called
Oh,
it my MFS Books.
MFS Books. Okay.
fbooks.com is the website, but if you want to download the Jargon Buster, it's mfsbooks.co.uk. And then
Okay. I'll put those in
the free,
the notes.
yes, yeah, the free 10,000 one, if you go to Instagram, and it's also on my website as well, you can then just go and download it from there. So
Well, Sheila.
and I don't use Twitter or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm not on Twitter either.
Well, I'm on it, but I don't use it
Yeah.
much.
Too much to keep up with, right?
Oh, definitely.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's such an
Yes.
honor to talk with you. Thank you for your time and,
You're welcome.
you
I
know,
hope it's been helpful to people. I
wonderful
hope.
connection. I feel like we're distant, soul sisters from
I
London to
know. I
Colorado.
know.
But
It's wonderful though that we can meet like this
truly,
and give people help if they need the help. It's there for them, which
truly,
is
yes. And
great.
for anyone else who's, in search of fertility support on their journey, I offer personalized support virtually. And you can reach out to me at ivfmanifestingamiracle.com. And I'll be sharing this video out, be on YouTube and sharing it out. So thank you so much, Sheila.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much indeed.
I'll
Bye
stay in
bye.
touch. Bye,
Yeah,
everybody.
bye.